All right. Welcome to the second episode of SHL History for Noobs. I am Sopath, joined by my co-host,
MB Hockey.
And today we have a special guest. It is Keygan, current GM of the Edmonton Blizzard and GM now for a very long time. Why don't you tell us how you got started as GM for the Edmonton Blizzard in general?
Well, my GM career actually started in a bit of a weird way. I'd been on the site for all of 9 days before I got my first ever co-GM position. And that was with, at the time, the Montreal Militia of the SMJHL. I was originally drafted to the Hamilton Steelhawks first overall in the season 37 draft. And 2 seasons later was traded due to a demand on my half. I didn't specify a team, but I ended up trading myself for the S38 first overall pick, and that was to the Edmonton Blizzard, where I just kind of laid low for a couple seasons. And then in S43, I believe, unfortunately, Ace, the current co-general manager at the time of the Blizzard, left to join the New England Wolfpack management team, and that was when I was hired on to the Blizzard as co-general manager under Carlson's.
Oh, wow. So you've been the GM of the Edmonton Blizzard for like almost 20 seasons now.
I've been a GM for almost 20 seasons. I've been a GM of the Blizzard for about 12 now, I believe.
Okay. So going back to S44?
S43, I think, was my first season as co-GM.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry, Hockey, were you going to say something?
I was just gonna say, like, how different was, like, GMing, like, back then as a co-GM compared to now?
The biggest difference for me is just the sheer amount of effort that has to go into testing now. Back then, we were on Simon T. Hockey Simulator, or STHS for short, and we just transitioned off that 3 seasons ago to Franchise Hockey Manager. And so with Simon T., you could sim 5,000 games in a 10-minute period, and you'd get a really big data set really quickly to kind of gauge your reactions off of, and it's just not possible with the new engine.
Oh, what is the point of the new engine then? Does it bring, like, something else new?
So I guess you guys are new enough that you weren't here for the reason we switched engines.
No.
No.
So the primary reason we switch engines, which I think honestly could be another episode for you guys in the future, was the season 51 Hamilton Steelhawks, who beat us in the Challenge Cup finals. It was just discovered that Simon T had a really big flaw in its decision-making process. And
okay.
I won't go into too many details about it because I think it would be another great episode for you guys. But ultimately, it became to the point where everyone was going to have identical builds if we didn't transition away from the old engine.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, great advantage of that is now you can actually watch games as opposed to back then, where it was all like in a play-by-play thread.
It was awful. I don't envy anyone that ever had to write a play-by-play.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and look at those old play-by-play threads, they're 8-9 pages deep, and it just, it's. If you want to go back and look at how, like, a game evolved, it's nice that it's there, but at the same time, it is a mess to go through.
A funny fact about play-by-plays is really early on in the SHL's history, every game of the 50-game season was play-by-played.
Every
Oh wow.
Every single game was done via play-by-play.
oh dear Jesus, no.
Granted, there was much less teams back then, so there was less games overall, but still, it was a lot
How many
of
teams were there?
play-by-plays. I believe it was only 6 to begin with.
So there's an original 6 of the SHL.
Or was it even less? It might have even been 4.
Were they all Canadian teams except for West Kendall?
I don't believe West Kendall's an original team. I think they were created
Really?
late single digits. Let's see. I just have to go find their sheet.
Oh yeah.
No, they were an original team. Absolutely, they were.
Yeah. That's really something that every game would have been done like that. Thank God they stopped doing that. It's a good thing that we still have the records for the SHL from when it was on the Simon T. Hockey Simulator, because the J records are just gone. If you want to find out like what the standings were of like S37 in the J, that shit's gone. I mean, there's archives of people posting about it on the site, but like if you actually want to go into the index, that's gone.
Really? The index for 37 or like?
I'm just being general. Like I know S39 is gone, and S40 is gone, and I'm pretty sure S42 is gone.
That's really weird. I didn't know that actually. That's really weird.
I guess like if you ever talk to JR, you might want to ask him about that.
Yeah, because I could have sworn he backed all of them up, so he should have access to those. I'll ask him about that.
That would be great. So let's get into season 45 here. So season 45, you guys win 41 games out of 50. Is that correct? I mean,
that is correct.
So hockey, let me put that in NHL win terms. That's the equivalent of an NHL team winning 67 games.
Wow, what did the Tampa Bay Lightning win 2 years ago?
I think it was like 63 or 64.
Wow, that's nuts. That's like Golden State Warriors type.
Yeah, that was like being, that is almost like a Warriors level of domination. And we'll get into how it was almost spoiled as we go on through. But when the season first started, I believe it was your first 7 games. I think you guys had 2 losses. And do you recall who your first 2 losses were to?
Let's go look, because
I know what they are. You want me to tell you?
Yeah, if you could tell me.
It was the Calgary Dragons. You lost both of your 2 first losses were Calgary.
Calgary has always been a great team. I don't think you could recall a time that Calgary was really bad for any extended period of time.
Yeah, like I think I've mentioned to hockey that when you look at the Calgary Dragons at Edmonton Blizzard, it's very much like looking at the Yankees and Red Sox, where it's just 2 classic teams, and especially in like Calgary's case, they've really never been bad. I mean, they've always been hanging around. But that second game you played that you lost, you ended up losing in the shootout. It was a really high-scoring game. I think it was a 4-4 going into overtime. So really, really competitive. And then your very next game was against Calgary, and you beat them, and you never lost to them again. So, I mean, it really, you kind of set the tone for the campaign really early on. Can you tell us a little bit about your best players from that team?
The weirdest part about that team is like oftentimes back then you'd have teams carried by 1 or 2 players. You'd see players like Chris York on the late 30 Torontos who would put up 75-point seasons to carry them to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But the weird part about this Blizzard team is that even though we had such high talented players, like elite TPE levels throughout the entire lineup, none of them were really that far above the rest. Like you have Joe K sitting there at 59 points, but then you have his line mates, Corey Knaus and Hercules Rockefeller. I mean, they're not far behind. I mean, Hercules is a little bit farther behind at 17 points behind Joe, but Knaus was only 8 points behind him.
Yeah. Like, and now that we kind of get into it, did Joe K ever become a Hall of Famer?
He actually just retired last season, and it's 5 seasons after retirement before you're eligible.
Is it safe to say he'll get in?
I believe he's first all time in playoff points. I think, and I mean that's just the nature of being on a strong Calgary Dragons team, is that you don't miss the playoffs and you have a lot of opportunities to score points. But I would very safely say Joe K is a Hall of Famer.
So he was a huge part of both the Calgary Dragons and the Edmonton Blizzard?
He was actually only with the Edmonton Blizzard for this one season.
Wow. So you have a guy who's kind of a traitor a little bit.
Yeah, and so it was a really interesting process to acquire Joe K. And so,
can you tell us about that a little bit?
So what happened was, at the end of season 44, they had announced that at the end of season 45, we would have expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And so Calgary knew that Joe K and another player of theirs at the time, Roman Augustus, TDZ on the forums, were going to be applying for expansion. Both of them were really well known. Both of them had juniors managerial experience. Joe K and TDZ had both been in head office for a long period of time at that point, so it was almost a given that those players would be chosen as an expansion duo.
Mm-hmm.
And so Calgary thought it to be best if they did something similar to what New England did last year and trade off the player they expected to win the expansion franchise for assets. And so the first team they messaged was us, because the one thing about Joe is, even though he's always about maximizing assets, he never wants to lose. Even if that means going to ultimately like the number one rival. And so... Which he did end up coming to. And it took a long time for us to decide that we wanted to acquire Joe, because we already had a really strong team. I mean, at this point, looking at our roster, to acquire Joe K, we had to bench an 1100 TPE player, which at the time is like a solid second liner, if not a first liner.
Damn, that's pretty tough.
And so I had
explaining that to the player too has got to be rough.
Thankfully, he was very minimally active at that point, and he was kind of like, just win me a cup. It's my last season. And I was like, okay, I can do that.
Okay, so Joe, you guys both knew that you were a really good team at the beginning of that season. Did you know that like you were that good, like to have like the record good? Like even if like the potential that you could do that?
See, I'd like to say yes, because it was such a strong team, but ultimately, as so many people will tell you with Simon T, it's all like you can have a coin flip in your favor. It does not mean you're going to win the coin flip.
Yeah.
And so you see a team like the Tampa Bay Barracuda, when they went 0-50, in Simon T, if they had that team, they actually do have a chance to beat a team like this Edmonton Blizzard team, just because of the nature of the engine.
Okay.
So to only lose as many games as we did, it was kind of like, wow, we just keep winning coin flips over and over and over again, even if they are weighted in our favor.
Yeah, like it's not 50-50. It's like it's swayed
65-35, but there's still that chance.
That's still a lot. Yeah, wow.
But again, like if you do like 65%, you square it, then you cube it, then you go forth from there. It becomes increasingly surprising that you keep winning.
And
sorry,
no, continue. No, you continue.
I did want to say though, like because I've had a moment to go through this roster. So if we're feeling confident Joe K is a future Hall of Famer, that's one. You have Oyson Fletcher already in the Hall of Fame. Brady McIntyre likely to be a future Hall of Famer. I don't know how. Obviously, that could be a little complicated. Demarcus, is that how you say it? Demarcus or Demarcus or Demarcus Smith?
I call him Demarcus, but I think it's Demarcus.
Okay, so Demarcus, he's still playing now.
Yes, he just got drafted to Atlanta.
Yeah, but I think his chances of getting in are pretty good. Tony Pepperoni, this is his rookie year, and he's going. Like Tony,
he's easy Hall of Famer.
Like Tony, arguably could have won the Ron Mexico last year. He arguably could have.
I argued for it personally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. I think he had 69 points.
He was
just a monster.
I believe he was like 7 points behind the point leader, but he had twice as many hits, twice as many takeaways. Like he was an all-around amazing player last year.
Absolute superstar. And this is his rookie season. He's putting up 23 points in 50 games. And then obviously today, with the induction of Tommy Tuck, that's another Hall of Famer. So I think it's 5 or 6, either future Hall of Famers or already in.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd say there's as many as 7 potentially. Oh no, it's 7 potentially 9 on that roster.
7 with a potential of 9. Wow.
Yeah. So like Joe for sure. Oyson's already in. Cuddles is already in. Scholes is already in. Tommy Tuck just got inducted today. Tuck almost guaranteed. Brady McIntyre almost guaranteed. I think there's potential for Hercules Rockefeller. Knaus got votes today. He didn't make it in. He didn't get many votes, but he did get votes. Smythe, I think, has a pretty good chance. I don't know if I said Pepperoni, but he's first ballot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. So, Hockey, in case you're not familiar with Tony Pepperoni, this is a dude who is just an absolute monster in the league right now. And we're very lucky that, S45 was his rookie year because we get to talk about him a little bit. Because he is a fun subject to talk about when you just look at his whole career and what he's done.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
Yeah. I mean, as Keygan has alluded to, he's got ability both on offense and on defense, but his offensive production is just so insane.
Did it start from his rookie season until now, or did he have to did it take him a few seasons to warm up to the league?
Well, let me pull up a sheet for you. I'm pretty.
Did you know right away that he was going to be a superstar? Is basically what I'm saying.
When you see Tommy's dedication to the league, you kind of know. But then you look at his stats, and I think he's one of very, very few players right now that are over point per game throughout their entire career.
Over a point per game. Wow.
I think he's just barely over, but.
And when you say few, does that mean I
want to say there's 3.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because nobody really ever maintains that point per game presence for an entire career. In your rookie years, you're almost certainly not going to do it.
But did he do it in his rookie years, or did he catch up in his later year?
He didn't. He had 23 points in 50 games his rookie season.
Oh, okay. So not terrible.
No, I mean, that's really, really good for a rookie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like almost the equivalent of a 41-point season in the NHL for a rookie. And considering Keygan, if I'm not mistaken, he was a second-round draft pick.
Yeah, I believe the article just came out last week, and he was listed as the best 23rd overall pick of all time already.
So, do you at all happen to remember why so many teams passed on him in the SHL draft?
So if you don't know Tommy was my co-GM for a long time. He just stepped down this season. When he was originally drafted into the SHL, I believe it was in season 31 with his original player, Tommy Salami. He made it to about 800 TPE before he disappeared just due to the demands of school.
Okay.
And then he came back. We interviewed him. He interviewed really well. And the rest is kind of history. Let's check. I believe he was, what round? Was he 43 in season 43?
Yeah, I mean, I think somewhere around there, the early 40s, because I know that in my original character's very last game, which was the S42 4-Star Cup, we lost to a team that he was on. So it would have had to have been sometime in the early 40s, I think. But you know, I do just look at this team, and when you just look at all the talent on it, it's not. I guess it's not hard to see why they won 41 games, but it doesn't make it any less impressive. Now, I would personally like to get into a little bit of the playoffs here, because this is what I meant earlier when I said that it almost was spoiled. First round, right? You play the Los Angeles Panthers, and you sweep them. It's really not much of a competition. You outscored them in 4 games, 16-7.
Oh.
It wasn't. There really just wasn't much to say about this series. But then you play Texas.
We played Texas.
And this was almost a complete fucking disaster. Like, you start the series down 2-1. What are your thoughts at that point?
At that point, I'm thinking we've already fucking lost more games to them in this playoff series than we did to them all season. like, what the hell's happening?
Yeah, and you lost game 3 4-0. I mean, that must have seemed a little surreal to get, a 4-goal deficit in a game.
Not only a 4-goal deficit, but to have the highest goals for in the league by a fairly decent margin, and then to get shut out by a team that wasn't a shoo-in for the playoffs was almost kind of like a kick in the gut.
Yeah. I should have mentioned hockey. Edmonton had the most goals for in the league and the fewest goals against in the league. By a decent margin for both of them. I mean, would it be safe to say that you guys just had a really strong blue line as well as to having an elite goaltender? Because Tommy Tuck, I think, won the John McBride Award 3 times?
He won the John McBride 3 times, the Mike Hahn Show 4 times, and he was nominated once for the MVP and won it once.
So for the sake of people who are unfamiliar, John McBride is equivalent to like the Vezina, right?
John McBride, I believe, is best goalie. No, Honcho's best goalie? Oh my gosh, you have me confused now.
Yeah.
One of them's least goals against, and one of them's just best voted goalie.
I vaguely recall John McBride was best voted goalie. I vaguely recall it, but I don't know certainly.
Yes, McBride is awarded to the best goalie.
Okay, so hockey, think about it this way. They have a goaltender who would go on to win the Vezina basically 3 times in his career, or like the equivalent of that. as well as 2 different defensemen who are still active to this day, but are probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. No, wait. There's more than 2, right? Because Tor Tuck was a defenseman, wasn't he?
Yes, Tor Tuck was a defenseman, Tommy's brother.
So there's
3?
Yeah.
Oh
There's a
my
lot of Hall of Fame defensive talent on the blue line, and here they are getting shut out 4-0.
Yep. Well, it's a sad sight to see.
You
But
really do
I
hate to
guess
see it.
You hate to see it.
The simulation just didn't favor you that day.
Yeah, but thankfully they win their next 2 games, and they're up 3-2. They lose Game 6, and now you go to the infamous Game 7.
Infamous. Oh no, I'm ready.
Yeah, I want to go through this here for a second. So they play Texas in Game 7, and Texas scores the first 2 goals of the game. And Texas has a 2-goal lead, 16 minutes, and they have a goal 16 minutes into the second period. Edmonton's down 2-0 with 3 minutes and
39 seconds.
3 minutes and 39 seconds. Edmonton scores their first goal of the game by Ensio Kaiju. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right.
3 minutes left in the third?
Well, in the second.
Okay.
Then Connor Tanner, which I believe is Keygan's character.
It's me.
Yeah, he scores not 30 seconds late. He scores another to tie it up, but then 30 seconds after Tanner ties it up, Carno Gronkmeyer scores. And we're in the third period now. So right as Edmonton ties it up, Texas takes the lead 3-2. Then Teddy Cuddles, he buries one against Texas. It's 3-3 with a little more than 5 minutes to go in the game. All right, let's do this. Edmonton wins the faceoff, and then I don't know what happened, but Joe K puts another one in the back of the net with like 4 seconds after Teddy Cuddles' goal for Edmonton. Joe K's burying one in the back of the net, and next thing you know, Edmonton has a lead. They just need to hold on. It's 4 minutes. It's 3 minutes. 2 minutes.
This is where the Hall of Fame defense comes in.
Yeah, speaking of defense, Torrey Tuck, with 1:44 left, hooks a Texas Renegade, and Texas goes on the power play.
Oh, no.
Brutal. Now, do you recall being in the play-by-play when that happened?
I think I was not, because what happened back then was games were simmed and the managers watched them privately. Because sometimes you knew days in advance what the outcome of the game was. And so I always used to joke with people that you know who won a game by which manager was in the thread. Because no losing manager would ever go into the thread. And so,
are you serious?
Well, because play-by-plays took so long sometimes, right? Like, you would have people that take 4 hours sometimes to write them. And when we're doing playoffs, we do a sim in the morning and a sim in the evening. And so I probably knew maybe 2 days in advance at this point what the outcome of the game was.
Oh, my God. And you had to keep this.
Yeah, and you have to keep it a secret. And so, I remember it was my second year managing ever. Season 37, I was co-GM still of the Montreal Militia. And we got eliminated in the 4-Star Cup finals. But I knew 3 days in advance. That, I knew before game 1 was play-by-play that our team got swept in the finals. And for me to be in our team locker room and be like, oh yeah, I'm so excited for the finals. It's so hard.
You boys have no idea what you're getting in for.
They're like, "Oh, don't worry, guys, it's just one game," and it's like, "Yeah, there's 3 more coming."
I'm proud of you no matter what.
Uh, but yeah, so we're in the thread. Overtime starts, and we're like, "Fuck!" Like they're all stressing out because they
So
have no idea what's happening.
yeah, they scored on the power play, obviously.
Yes, they scored on the power play. That is where I was going with this. So I guess, Keygan, you knew all this before your team did.
Yeah.
And what was that joy then to know how this game was going to go down?
Because you have guys sweating. Like it's a lot of these guys. It was our first Challenge Cup in a long time in season 45. I think it was our first in 17 seasons or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of our guys' final seasons. Like Nicholas Scholes had retired at the beginning of this season, as well as Theodore Kukers. And so we have these guys. This is their last chance at a Challenge Cup. We have a team that only lost 6, 7 games the entire season. And you'd have to lose more than that to get eliminated from the playoffs. And so anything short of a cup was disappointing. But to even have to go to game 7 in the second round was like, frick, like this might actually happen. We might not win.
Yeah, I mean, all 3 of those losses you had in the second round were all in regulation, which would be the equivalent of half of all your regulation losses across the whole season.
Yeah, so in 11 games we had lost as many times or half as many times as we did in 50.
So it must be with great relief that you know that 51 seconds into overtime,
The very first
53,
shot.
very first shot, Teddy Cuddles buries it into the Texas net. It's over, and Edmonton goes into the Challenge Cup to face at that time the West Kendall platoon.
Yes, and West Kendall was in a bit of a dynasty themselves at that time.
Yeah, and they're one of the historic franchises of the league, really.
They are, I believe they're one of 6 original franchises.
And they've got certainly a lot of cups to their name. Did they have like a strong culture at that time? Like with cultivating talent and building talent?
Well, at that point, West Kendall was just known for winning. They won games. That's what they did. That was their entire identity was we won games. And so you have free agents that are headed there because they won so many seasons.
They just, you have people who just want to be part of the winning parade.
Exactly.
Do you win TPE if you win the championship or no?
Just one TPE.
Oh.
And you didn't even get it most of the time because it was a milestone TPE. And you were only allowed 40 cap TPE per season at that time.
Oh, Jesus.
That didn't even really amount to much.
No, just bragging rights.
So is it still that way?
Yes, you still get a TPE for winning the cup at this point.
Say that would make sense because otherwise, if teams start winning a lot, there's a snowballing effect.
Yeah, like if you were awarding 10, 15 TPE. Woo.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I thought of that.
So the series against West Kendall, I mean, this is a what the fuck is going on series, and you know what's going on before your team does.
Yeah.
So you win the first 2 games at home, and then you lose 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Tell me, what are your thoughts at that point?
So I remember this so vividly because it was so outlandish that it even happened. So like I was alluding to earlier, you could test a lot of games against one opponent to see kind of where you landed in the great scheme of things in regards to wins and losses. And I remember I was testing one morning And normally it's like you see like 60-40 or 55-45 or something like that when you're against a really good team. And so I was doing 500 game data sets against West Kendall. And to this day, I swear on my life, I have never seen it. I mean, obviously not because we're not on Simon T anymore. I had a 500 game data set where me and West Kendall had the exact same amount of wins, losses, and we were separated by a single overtime loss.
What?
On a 500 game data set.
How?
A single overtime loss was all that separate. And I've never, ever to this day seen anything even remotely close to that close of a testing set.
That is like shockingly close.
I'll see if I can find. I remember sending a picture to JR that day because I was like, "There's no way this is actually what's happening."
Like, but funny enough, that ended up being a pretty decent prediction because you guys were in fact so close. I would like to just take this time while you've looked for that to talk a little about West Kendall. Kendall.
No, it wasn't even overtime losses. I'll send you the picture, but okay. I'll send it in the channel right now.
Okay.
Identical wins, identical losses, identical overtime wins, identical overtime losses, and the separation was a shootout win and a shootout loss.
Ha!
Goals for 1,671 for Edmonton in 500 games, and 1,662 for West Kendall. A difference of 9 goals
in 500 games.
500 games.
Like, let's just do the quick math on that. 9 divided by 500. You're talking about something that represents a 1.8% difference in goal differentials over 500 games. I mean, that was insanely close.
And so our thing was, and that's a perfect example of why we were so surprised we won that many games, regardless of how good our team was. Is you see a team like West Kendall, and they're clearly just as good as us. And how many games did they win that season? Not record breaking.
No.
They only won 30 games that season.
Wow. So you guys had 11 more wins than them, despite the fact that you put up you put the two teams against each other 500 times, and it's almost dead even.
And it's quite literally dead even.
Yeah. So let me go through West Kendall's roster real quick. Danny Forsberg, tied for leading scorer, 60 points in 50 games, 27 goals, 33 assists. Roman Augustus also tied with 60 points, 22 goals, 38 assists. Then you have Alex Light with 42, Roman Augustus with 41. Their top goaltender was Bojo Biscuit.
Yeah, who just missed the Hall of Fame today.
Oh, no. Sorry, Bojo. But not as good as Tommy Tuck.
Not as good as Tommy Tuck.
No, this season he posted 27 wins in 44 games, .902 save percentage. Not quite on Tommy Tuck level, but very good season. I mean, they're a good team. But still, you lose 3 games in a row to them after winning the first 2. I mean, that's got to make you nervous.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm sorry. Can you go ahead?
If you're going to talk about the next 2 games, you go ahead, because it's something about the next 2 games that I was going to mention.
I was going to mention. So then we have Game 6. Very, very. But hockey, if you've noticed, the trend here is a lot of very dramatic and important games.
I do, yes. The beauty of
hockey. A lot of very, very important games. So after the first period, the game is tied. Goals by Hercules Rockefeller for Edmonton and Florence Kleijesters for West Kendall. Sure. Then second period, Hercules scores his second goal 9 minutes and 20 seconds into the period. West Kendall then scores 2 goals right back. The Edmonton is going into the third period down 3-2 again. And this third period, like, I'd imagine, like, if you played this on Franchise Hockey Manager, and this went the exact same way in, like, a Twitch chat, this would be one of the most insane hype moments ever.
Oh, man.
Because
I can't imagine.
you go... This third period is probably being simmed at, like, normal speed, so it probably takes, like, 5 to 10 minutes to get through. And you have 5 minutes, nothing, 3-2. 10 minutes, nothing, 3-2. 15 minutes, nothing, 3-2. Edmonton is 5 minutes away from elimination. And with 1:42 left in the game, Oyson Fletcher scores a goal assisted by Teddy Cuddles, and it's tied 3-3. We're going to overtime. Edmonton is going to survive for at least to go to an overtime period. And were you watching this sim when there was this thing for the managers?
Yes, I'll allude to it more when we talk about Game 7 as well. But I was in my car in a KFC parking lot because I knew it was sim time, and I was with my girlfriend at the time, fiance now, and I was like, "Listen, I have to pull over somewhere. I need to watch this." And she was pretty pissed off about it, but we had to do it.
Did you explain to her? No, listen, I am the GM of a fictional hockey
team. I had to explain that to her, yes.
So you've gone on this whole time and she hasn't realized she's dating a GM of a hockey team?
She should feel privileged, I thought, but she kind of just made fun of me.
No, you don't understand. They're real players. So what? They actually play hockey in real life? Well, no. But they upgrade their characters and they're real people. But the players aren't real. Well, yeah.
But I'm watching them play right now.
I love that this is the story of, like, I've got to pull over. I've got to watch it. And what a correct decision you made. Because overtime is going to be really dubious. Do you recall what happened at the very end of the third period?
All I know is that we scored and it went to overtime.
What happened in the very end of the third period was Alex Light of West Kendall cross-checked an Edmonton Blizzard with 3 seconds left in the game.
Oh, what a stupid decision.
And so you're starting overtime on a power play.
Sounds pretty contagious.
And, of course, Joe K scores a goal on the power play, assisted by Brady McIntyre and Corey Nouse. And the game's over. Game over. You forced Game 7. How are you feeling in that KFC parking lot?
So I'm parked in this KFC parking lot, staring at my phone on data, and I'm fist pumping in the air, smiling ear to ear because we had just won Game 6. And oftentimes with managers, back in this era, when it was just a click of a button and that's what decided the game, it was just like, well, I don't want to wait until tomorrow. We're both here. What do you say we just sim the next game as well? So that's what we did.
You're still in the parking lot?
I'm still in the parking lot of KFC, and I'm furiously typing on my iPhone. I'm like, let's freaking do this, JR. And he's like, yeah. West Kendall signs off on doing it. And so we simmed again.
So how does your girlfriend react to, okay, we're going to be a bit longer?
I think at that point she had asked if we could get food, and I said yes, so she was a little bit more okay with it.
Okay. Well, at least there is that. Because you want to be in a good mood for this game.
Yeah, you want to have a full belly. You want to be happy. No negative vibes before Game 7.
No bad vibes in Game 7.
Now, is this the conference finals?
This is the finals.
This is the finals. Okay.
Yeah, finals. There's only At
3
that
rounds?
time, there was only 3 rounds. Is there more
Okay.
than 3 rounds now?
I believe there's 4 now.
Okay. And if I recall now with how seeding is done, isn't it possible to like face a team in your own conference in the finals now?
As of this coming season, I believe so.
So it's all kinds of weird now. Like you could potentially have a Challenge Cup final that features Edmonton and Calgary, which would just be bananas.
That would be bananas. That would sell a lot of tickets in real life.
Yeah, I mean that would really be something. That'd be like Lakers Celtics from back in the 80s. That'd be so intense. So I'm kind of wishing for it now. But anyways, first period is kind of crazy scoring wise. Wes Kendall scores 4 minutes and 43 seconds into the game. Joe scores 12 minutes in. 2 minutes later, Corey now scores to make it 2-1 for Edmonton. But Roman Augustus scores about 2 minutes later. And it's tied 2-2 going into the second period. So there's already a lot of goals flying. Are you a little nervous at this point?
I'm more nervous of the fact at this point that if we lose this game, we will have officially lost more times in the playoffs than we did during the entire regular season.
Oh, shit, that's right.
Because this would have been our 7th loss.
Oh, my God.
Thankfully, as we know with history, it wasn't.
No, because you guys would score. Demarcus Smith would score a goal 5 minutes 50 into the second, giving you the lead, and you would never surrender that lead again because you had this name's gonna kill me, Pyotr Cherkowski scores his 3rd goal of the postseason, assisted by Brady McIntyre, who 13 assists for Brady McIntyre in this playoffs for a defenseman. Wow. And Asinio Kaiju, 3 minutes and 29 seconds into the third. You've got a 4-2 lead. It's kind of, I mean, I know some crazy things have happened in this series, but
Very
in that
crazy.
parking lot, are you feeling confident?
I'm feeling good at that point. I know we have a really, really, really talented goalie in net, and we're playing with a lead.
And that's really all you need.
That's all you need, baby.
So Wes Kendall scores 10 minutes 55 in. There's 9 minutes and 5 seconds left to play in this game. They just need one more goal. Now, I'd imagine that that's got to be pretty nerve-wracking, but it does help when Shoyu Kikoman of West Kendall elbows an Edmonton Blizzard with 13 minutes and 55 seconds left. Bad time to take a penalty. Edmonton goes on the power play. Tortuck, a defenseman, scores just his 2nd goal of the postseason, assisted by Connor Tanner, a.k.a. Keygan, and Tedder's Cuckers with his 8th assist. And Edmonton is up by a 2-goal lead again, with this time less than 5 minutes to go, I believe. And at that point, you've got to feel like it's over.
Yeah, you can basically play keep away at that point.
That's
Oh, yeah.
so bad. Do you know the power play percentage for this team? Is that a stat?
I can get it for you really quickly.
Because
that'd be great.
it just seems like every single big power play they get, they score them.
Yeah, I mean, it could certainly feel like that. It's just that they have a lot of power play goals in the postseason.
Edmonton scored on 27% of their power plays. That's in those
That
playoffs.
is very impressive.
That is nuts. 27%. What a power play unit out there. My God. And you know what's crazy? When you look at the plus minus of this whole team, Edmonton has not a single player in the minus for Game 7. Not one. And then Wes Kendall has not one player who I stand corrected. Sven Brockstad, wherever you are, you are the lone player in Game 7 with a positive plus minus. Well done. So the game's over. you're in this Kentucky, KFC parking lot?
Yeah,
right?
I'm in a KFC parking lot.
I mean, you just won the Challenge Cup. And, nobody around you understands how big this is, but this is massive. How are you celebrating?
Well, I mean, at that point, I'm 10 seasons deep in the league, and that's like a year and a half. Mm-hmm. It's like for me to spend a year and a half working towards this goal. And I mean, that's nothing compared to some of the guys on the team who were there a long time before me. And it's like, we finally did it. And it genuinely feels, I'm sure a lot of people will tell you, especially managers who do the lines and stuff, that first cup, any cup really, the second cup felt just as good in 49. It feels like Christmas morning when you're a kid. Like you're smiling ear to ear, you're vibrating. Like it feels good.
I mean, that's just a huge moment. And
is that your first?
How did you?
Is that your first cup?
Go ahead, Hockey.
Sorry.
That was my first cup, both as a player and a manager.
And including when you co-managed?
Yeah.
Wow. That's very impressive. And your second season, you said? Managing?
It was my second season as Edmonton co-general manager, yeah.
It's very impressive. All right, sorry, Sofa.
I was just going to say, so did you celebrate by going into KFC?
Yes, because I promised the girlfriend she could get food.
So, did you make sure to tell the person at the cash register your glorious achievement?
No. I opted to keep that one to myself.
Shame.
And that's another issue with me knowing the result before my team, is I'm sitting there like a kid on Christmas, and I can't tell anyone.
Yeah, you can't spoil it.
Do you have to know before? Like, can't you just be surprised with your team? Like if you had the choice?
Yeah, but if your mom told you could open a present early, wouldn't you do it?
I guess, yeah.
But I mean, that's gotta be painful. You've got all these guys who've been vets of the game for a long time who are on, they're on pins and needles waiting to see if they're going to win this thing. And you already know.
And I already knew.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be an interesting situation to be in.
Yeah, it's not fun keeping secrets, like good secrets.
They know you knew, though, right?
They know I know.
But so just trying to gauge a reaction?
Yeah. We went into that day down 3-2. Because all they knew was that Game 6 was being simmed.
Oh,
they had no idea that we were doing an extra game that night.
Oh, right.
So they didn't even know you were doing... Did they know how many games were in the series at all?
I believe at that point they knew we were going to Game 6 down 3-2.
Okay. And then obviously they don't even know if they've won Game 6. So they don't even know if there is a Game 7. And boom, Game 7.
And then Game 7.
I mean, I just can't even get over just how close you guys were with this team. Where in a 500 game base, Edmonton and West Kendall are tied. That's actually pretty nuts.
It was pretty insane.
And you look at all the big moments that this team has had. I mean, through all those years, are there any jerseys that you're going to be retiring that aren't already retired from this team?
From that team, we just recently retired 4 jerseys from that team, and there's one that's currently being debated as a 5th.
Okay, and obviously when Tony Pepperoni is done, is that
going to be one you guys... Tony, I could retire his jersey now and feel comfortable about it.
Yeah, I mean, just what a career that guy's having. I mean, and it's got to be cool in that case because first year of his character's career, he's got a cup, and that would be the first of 2, I believe, right?
Yes, he got his second in season 49.
And then, of course, this kind of circles us all the way back to the S51 Challenge Cup, which was the reason for leaving the Simon T. Hockey Simulator. Which, now that you have mentioned, I do kind of want to do something about that, because that is kind of fascinating that this one series kind of changed the whole view on what sim engine to use.
Yeah.
I mean, so can you give us a little more detail on that before we end this?
On 51?
Yeah, with the
Maybe
Simon T. Hockey Simulator.
To sequence into the next one to get the audience set up.
In short, we learned that so the way Simon T worked was on ratios. So having 20 in a stat wasn't necessarily any better than, we worked on 1 to 100 scale at that point. Having 99 in a stat didn't make it any better. What made it better was the ratio between shooting, skating, and passing. And through vigorous testing, and I was really mad at the time. I was furious because I was like, how could you guys do this? Looking back on it, I was a little harsh on them, and I'll admit that to anyone who asks me. Through vigorous testing to make their team better, they realized that if you take away all the ability to pass, the engine decides, well, let's just take a lot of shots. And a lot of shots means a lot of chances at goals. And I'll kind of leave it at that.
Wow.
But essentially it was, in theory, making your player worse made them a lot better.
Holy shit. That is actually an interesting exploit. My God.
It was... Oh, man, I hated that season.
So, the legacy of season 45, though, how do you think this is being remembered, and do you think that another team could challenge for that many wins again?
Well, I mean, we saw New England in season 53 tie it. I think they gave us the record, like, we're still considered number 1. Just because they know the difference between the two engines, even though we are technically tied in overall points.
Okay.
With how good some of these teams are, I could definitely see a team challenging it or even beating it. But I believe we're moving to 66 games soon.
Oh, wow.
Which means that I would forever be cemented
Oh yes, that's what
in as the number 1 team in a 50-game schedule.
So 66 games. This is another episode potentially. That I'm going to presume is to make more. I know that this touches on recent topics, but this that's for the sake of goalies.
I believe it's partially goalies and partially the way the schedule needs to work for the conferences to line up. Because we currently have 9 teams per conference, which makes for uneven divisions. And so for us to go to 9 in a single division, or a conference essentially, it has to change the game schedule, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, Asa's stat line is immortal now.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1,000 points in 1,448 games. I believe that was how many he played. I mean, he had more than 1,000, but that's now going to be in a whole new ballpark with 66 games a season being how it's going to go.
Just more opportunities, right?
Yeah, I mean, now you're going to probably see some old records get broken, and everything's going to get divided into the modern era and previous era.
Yeah, exactly.
And wow, that is an interesting revelation. When do you think that's going to be happening?
I believe they're talking about it now, so potentially next season, if not the season after.
Wow. All right. I think that just about covers that. Thank you so much, Keygan, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
No worries. Thanks for having me, guys.